Good morning. Today we're having a little talk on garden maintenance scheduling. And to me, that's something if you're going to be self-employed or even go out and work as a student in homeowners' gardens, and you decide what does the job need, what does the client want, so we always figured once a week is probably our majority, and then we have once a month jobs, and that's how we do it. When I was first in business, almost everything was twice a month. Most of the clients we had were out in the sunset. They didn't want to spend a lot of money, so they didn't want once a week. But if a lawn is growing well, you want to only cut off a little bit, 1/3 of the leaf surface, and that way it thrives. But if you wait until it grows up 3 inches and cut it in half, you're almost killing it, and then you stunt it for a while. So that's why also, if you do it once a week, you do it quicker, and so it's a little bit cheaper in the long run, and the garden always looks the same. Once a month usually requires no lawns, grooming plants and things of that sort, raking up the leaves, and you could probably get away with twice a month if people want it a little bit neater. But these are things you have to figure out when you're giving prices, because most people don't want you to do it on an hourly basis. They don't know what you could do in an hour, so they want to know how much will this cost me a month or a service, and that's what they're going to ask you. So this brings me around to how do you judge your own time? And I tell my students, when we give you a project here in lab period to weed this section, to mow the front lawn, whatever, look at it and make a guesstimate. Say it's going to take me 20 minutes and time yourself. If it takes 40 minutes, whoa, you have to understand your estimates are way off. And if you gave a price, you'd be working for half price. So you have to know what you can do, and this rolls around into landscaping and everything. Some people are better than others in different tasks. In maintenance, a lot of time, trimming a boxwood hedge, with the shears like this, because if it's not real long, a big hedge, you don't want to get the electric shears out. It takes so long to hook it up and do all this that you get going with your shears, you'll be done. But you have to know how quick you are. And to give you an example, I used to work with my dad, and he used to trim up all the bushes, and I used to watch, and then pick up all the debris. And so he died, and I took over, and even in front of our own house, we had these round privet bushes, and he used to just jig, all done, beautiful. Take him 20 minutes on each one. I got out there, it took me an hour and a half, and it wasn't finished. You do a little bit, then you go a little bit more, a lot of experience. So you'll find out when you first start, you're slow, and you got to pick up the speed, because if you're doing this for money, you have competition. Other gardeners, people see, oh, you charged me $25 to trim that bush. They call the gardener next door, he'll do it for 15. But he gets out there and he whips it out, but you lost the job, So you have to be, a lot of time, not too fast, but be efficient, knowing what you're doing, and do it right the first time. If you have to go over and over, like with trimming, over and over again, it's taking longer and longer, okay? So this is one part of it. Another part of it is the weather, time of year. You have to know when to do what. And a good example are your lawns. Usually we got a little bit of noise from the bus there. But a lot of times what you have is when I say the weather or the time of year, lawns, we only mow them let's say we don't mow them, let's say November to February. They don't need anything. They're not growing. They're dormant. And a lot of time we'll run the lawnmower over just to suck the leaves up, but we're not mowing the lawn. So if a lot of time you get to January, all the leaves have dropped, the yard's all clean. Don't waste your time mowing the lawn. Do something else. The plants need a little bit of this. They need a little bit of pruning. You could do other work in the yard, but what you have to do is explain this to the client. When I first started, the clients expect me to mow that lawn every time I came. And it just drove me nuts to mow a lawn that you look in the grass catch, there's no grass. So what am I doing this for, So that's on the lawn. And also then with the lawns, a lot of times is feeding. I don't feed during the winter either. I usually feed from March 1st until the end of October once a month. Feed the lawn, and not a heavy feed, a light feed. It always just keeps the grass growing just at a nice little clip, and it's very green and lush. Okay? Then you have your pruning. Roses, deciduous trees, all of these things, you do them during the winter. But one thing I will point out, and Thomas probably told you this under pruning, you don't prune when the plants are wet, because this is when you spread disease. So my dad, just the opposite. When it rained, he said he couldn't rake and do all this other stuff. He'd go out and prune all his roses and fruit trees. And when I went to college, I found out this is the wrong time to do it. So you have to learn different species, different trees, plants, when you should and should not prune them. A good example is a cypress tree. Don't ever do them when they're wet. You want to do it when it's dry. So like wet fog up in Twin Peaks, you can't do it during the summer. Otherwise you're spreading disease. Okay? So these are all scheduling, and you have to think about it, read about it, learn from Thomas, learn from Malcolm, from everybody. If you have friends in the park department, everybody will tell you something, So you want to do things at the right time of the year, because it's been proven. This is when you should be doing it. You don't want a heavy prune during the summer or spring when things are sprouting out, A good rule of thumb of pruning, though, that is kind of time of year, is flowering plants like rhododendrons, camellias, all these flowering ornamentals. You prune them as soon as they're through blooming. You can get them at the end of their blooming period if people want to pick the flowers. That way your clients want them to bring inside, or right after, because right after you prune them, then the new growth is coming. Then that's setting up bloom for next year. And if you get in the wrong habit of pruning everything during the winter, all this new growth on the camellia came out, now you cut it all off. You just cut off all the blooms. Then if you waited another 2-3 months, they'd all bloom out. And a lot of gardeners, I've had people tell me, my roses do not bloom. I've had people tell me their camellias do not bloom. Impossible. They have to bloom. But the gardener comes in his head shears and trims everything off. And I went to a job one day that tree roses, a lady said, they never bloom. And I look at them, they're full of buds. I look on the ground, there's not a petal on the ground. So whenever the gardener saw the buds coming, he pruned them off. Otherwise, all the petals would drop on the ground. He had too much to pick up. So he'd go around pruning all the buds off. It was a beautiful green rose bush, but it never bloomed. So, I tell Thomas all the time, I know every trick in the book that gardeners play. Okay? And a lot of them are your competition. And a lot of times people will ask you how much you charge per hour. I'm not going to tell you right now, what to charge. But in my day, it was way back in the primitive times, $3 an hour. So a lot of these gardeners that I knew that were really quick, they say $3 an hour, but I only work by contract. So you look at the job and they said, they figured $3. So the client figures it's going to take him an hour. The gardener got out of there in 15 minutes. He was very quick. And the clients would have a fit. But he told them what the fee was, but they hired him on the $3 an hour. So this is your competition. And I've seen a lot of that, price of installing sod. I used to charge $3 a square foot total. Price of it, installation and ripping out. And this other lady says, well, I get it for $1.50 a square foot. And so I didn't get the job, but she called me later to give her maintenance of mowing the lawn. And I said, how much did you pay? About $1.50 an hour. $1.50 a square foot. I measured it out, and it came something like $600. And whatever it was. Well, it was half the price of. It was more than what I would charge. Because I was charging $3 a foot, and I said, but he gave me a price. He said so much a foot, but that's not when he multiplied it out. And then I looked over the fence. All the old sod was just thrown over in the empty lot. I had figured to haul it away. So you get fooled on that one. So all the way around, this guy made a bundle. And I would have worked my butt off just to make the money that I wanted. So at the same time, I want you to remember one thing, and I live by this all the time. Be honest. Along the line, you'll come out on top. The ones that I call the kind of crooked, the shyster, they move on. They can't work the same neighborhood. Their name gets around. Okay? So keep that in mind. Be honest. See you later.